Hello class, this is Edward Efriye. My presentation for GCH 641 is titled Malaria, the Burden of Ghana, Turning the Corner on Disease Prevention and Management. What is malaria? It is a disease caused by parasites that are transmitted to humans from infected female Anopheles mosquitoes when the latter bite a human host. An infected pregnant mother may also pass it on to her infant, as well as through blood transfusions. May I point out that the male Anopheles mosquitoes do not transmit the parasite. In Ghana, the deadliest of the species, Plasmodium falciparum, is the main cause of malaria. Once injected into a human host, the parasite infects the red blood cells, eventually leading to symptoms like fever, headache, fatigue, chills, and flu-like illness, usually 7 to 30 days after an infected bite. Left untreated, the symptoms may lead to severe complications and ultimately death. The disease burden. Out of a population of about 25 million Ghanaians, 3.5 million contract malaria every year. Approximately 20,000 children die from the malaria disease every year. 25% of the deaths of children under the age of 5. Among pregnant women, it accounts for 14% of outpatient visits and 9% of all deaths. Children who survive are at risk for significant disabling consequences from severe malaria, such as convulsions, brain dysfunction that can stymie long-term development and school attendance. About 25% of the income of a malaria-stricken family is spent on treatment, prevention costs, and overall loss of income. Estimated economic burden of malaria is about 1 to 2% of Ghana's GDP. Now, this constitutes a huge drain on a poor country as Ghana. Symptoms: uncomplicated and severe malaria. For uncomplicated malaria, the initial non-specific symptoms are headaches, muscle aches, nausea and vomiting, fever and anemia. Symptomatic paroxysmal chills lasting 10 to 15 minutes and high fevers lasting 10 hours up to 36 hours that can constitute a repetitive cycle every 36 to 72 hours. For symptoms of severe malaria, they are usually clinically evident in multiple convulsions, prostration, respiratory distress, jaundice, pulmonary edema, impaired consciousness, abnormal bleeding, and ultimately shock cardiovascular collapse leading to death. Persons with decreased immunity are especially susceptible to complications of severe malaria. Now, I also need to point out that decreased immunity in Ghana as a result of persistent malnutrition in the population, coupled with the presence of neglected tropical diseases and other chronic disease like diabetes, makes severe malaria an especially dangerous condition. Diagnosis and prevention, as well as treatment. Clinical diagnosis based on signs and symptoms. This may, however, be unreliable, non-specific. Too many diseases in Ghana present like malaria and are also inaccurate. Parasitological diagnosis is the best form, but it's based on the detection of parasites in the blood, usually requiring time-consuming skilled set in the laboratory. It is the most accurate and specific. Rapid diagnostic testing is also available. So the logistics for parasitological diagnosis is a challenge to many malarious districts and regions in Ghana. And the quandary is, should treatment be based on clinical diagnosis or parasitological diagnosis first? Treatment. Plasmodium falciparum is the major infecting species in Ghana, is the deadliest. Treatment should begin as soon as possible. Ideally, treatment should be based on laboratory-confirmed diagnosis to attain suppressive therapy and clinical cure. Most common drugs used are chloroquine, sulfadoxine primethamine, mefloquine, atovaquone, proguanil, quinine, and doxycycline. The gold standard treatment by WHO is, however, artemisinin-based combination therapy, commonly referred to as ACT. Prevention. Integrated vector management aims at disrupting the link in the epidemiological triad between the vector/agent, mosquito, and the host human. To this end, insecticide-treated nets and long-lasting insecticide-treated nets, especially for children under 5 years and pregnant women, are important. Indoor residual spraying is also an important tool in the integrative vector management, as well as environmental management with larvicidin in pools of stagnant water. Preventive anti-malaria medicines, usually intermittent preventative treatment for women during pregnancy, intermittent preventive treatment in infants, screening testing for children in malarious regions. But the gold standard, as I've already pointed out, is ACT pharmacotherapy. Global Public Health Strategy. The World Health Assembly in 2005 aimed at ensuring that at least 80% of those at risk of or suffering from malaria would benefit from major preventive and curative interventions in order to reduce the malaria burden by at least 50%. In 2008, and aligned with these targets, the Global Malaria Action Plan was launched by the Rollback Malaria Partnership as a blueprint to halve malaria-associated mortality by 2015. The Rollback Malaria goals coincide with that of Millennium Development Goals, target number 8. Achievement of those goals based on critical assumptions of sustained political commitment by affected country programs, country population adherence to scaled-up interventions, and sufficient international financing of programs. Organizations working on malaria in Ghana. I should say here that there's a multiplicity of organizations that cannot be outlined here, but the main ones, the Ghana government through the Ministry of Health and Ghana National Malaria Control Program deals with multiple international actors towards the prevention, treatment, and ultimately eradication of malaria. The World Health Organization, WHO, United Nations Children Emergency Fund, UNICEF, Global Fund for AIDS, Tuberculosis, and Malaria, the US President's Malaria Initiative through the US Agency for International Development, USAID, Department for International Development, UK, DFID, are among the notable ones. Challenges in Ghana. ITNs are widely available, but inconsistent use of the net is widespread. Ghana has a long rainy season that is a conducive environment to mosquitoes, especially in the southern parts, rendering many regions endemically malarious. Now, this is what some have called the curse of geography. In the northern parts, when it is dry season, the rooms are too hot inside and many people sleep outside in the open, exposing them to mosquito bites. Malaria infection thus tends to be a year-round in Ghana. Clinical signs and symptoms of malaria are often ignored until people are quite sick before they seek health care because of the conception that malaria presents like many other diseases. Pharmacotherapy is usually expensive for many families, even though drugs are heavily discounted at public health facilities. Now, bear in mind that majority of the population lives under less than $2 a day. Non-adherence to treatment follow-up is a significant problem, as well as adherence to drug treatment protocols. Looming on the global malaria horizon is the prospect of widespread parasite resistance to artemisinin combination therapy, which is currently the gold standard of pharmacotherapy. Donor fatigue in the context of unimpressive political commitment on the part of the Ghana government towards anti-malaria preventive and treatment interventions also pose a challenge. The rank poverty of the country, where people are too poor to the point of dependency on donor programs to fight malaria, also pose a challenge to the bigger issue of sustainability. A glimmer of hope. Well, the Global Fund program for IRS in selected endemically malarious areas of Ghana, which have made significant reductions in malaria incidence and prevalence, especially in the middle southern part of Ghana, in the Ashanti region, is a ray of hope. The prospect for broader replication of the program in the other parts of Ghana also constitute a glimmer of hope. But ultimately, the hope is for a vaccine that may curb this baneful disease afflicting Ghana. This is the end of my presentation, and for my references, I'm not going to go over it. You can find them, a few of them here, and thank you very much.